Hello, everyone. It is time for another episode of Masks Off, and I'm Tia.
And I'm Kim.
And today we're going to talk about wholeness. It's such a profound concept, I think, because we know we're whole, but we really don't know how to believe we're whole sometimes, if that makes sense, or how to get there. It's an esoteric idea that we don't fully integrate often. At least that's what I've experienced personally. I've witnessed it in clients. And this quote kind of touches on that beautifully. So it's from Reyna Biddy. Switch your mentality from I'm broken and helpless to I'm growing and healing, and watch how fast your life changes for the better. And when I think of that quote, we're raised to think we're broken and helpless often, whether that's intentional by anyone, but it's the cultural message we hear over and over again. Something's wrong with us. I didn't know enough to get the grade on the test. I didn't do it well enough. I should have caught that ball on the baseball field. Oh, if only I hadn't said that to my mom, she wouldn't be upset. So something's wrong with me. So really, it brings in that mentality of shame, which we talk about. When we feel shame, we feel broken, right? Because there's something wrong within us, instead of seeing it as you're not responsible for another's feelings. You make mistakes. What can you learn from that? So the healing and growing and really tapping into that inner wholeness, because I always love the image. I mean, you hear the moon, right? So the moon is always whole, but we only see the light, the sliver of the crescent or half of it, or the whole moon when it's fully bright and illuminated. And it also brings to mind the yin and the yang symbol, right? So we're the light and the dark, and the dark and the light. And that's wholeness to me. We're not not only good per se of what society says good is. We all have darkness. And now I'm really thinking of more as we're talking. The Thich Nhat Hanh poem, I reference this a lot with clients. And, you're the dragonfly and the animal that's about to eat the dragonfly. You're the slave trader or the arms trader and the children. I'd love to bring it up right now, but it would take me too long to Google it. But he brings in the beauty of we are good and evil. It just depends on the circumstances of how we show up, because of how our choices are and what is there in that moment. They say everyone's capable of murder, right? Whether that's self-defense or defending your child or whatever it is. But we don't want to believe that, because that's too dark and scary. But if you see it all the time in nature, right? The most passive animal is going to protect its young, and they're going to potentially die in the process to protect their young. But you don't even realize that until. So you're whole, right? You're whole no matter how you show up. You're not broken.
And I love that you did bring up that piece about we are the light and the dark, the yin and the yang. And we're not conditioned to know that.
Right.
We're not conditioned or taught or anything to know and understand that when we're young. And so for me, and I think many people, that when we talked about it in the last episode, when you're raised as the good girl,
right?
Well, what does that in itself, saying be the good girl, means? You need to get rid of and shun away the bad. You can only be the good girl. So what gets in the way of wholeness for me is that the shame that you mentioned, the not good enoughness, not feeling good and feeling bad, feeling inherently bad. And then therefore, that's how the masks are born.
Right.
Being the perfectionist, right? Wear the perfection mask, wear the performer mask. And I did that really well through middle school and high school. I needed to perform, get straight A's, be the best I could be at the sports that I played, like, president of my class, this, that, and the other thing. However, when I wasn't trying to perfect or perform, that other part of me, and it was normal and natural teenage exploration stuff, but it was the part of me that was smoking cigarettes, the part of me that was drinking at parties when I was a teenager, or the part that was, doing these things that quote unquote I shouldn't be doing. But that part of me had to be like covered up.
Right.
Where you're saying like, we're both, right? We're both and.
Right.
There's those
Right.
parts. And then there's,
Exactly.
but I felt bad about that.
Mhm.
I mean, besides the fact that smoking is bad for you, you know what I mean? But I felt like shameful, like something was wrong with me because I was smoking cigarettes and
Right.
hiding and doing it in secret.
Right.
And it's the same thing that I've shared over and over in the episodes about me and food.
Mhm.
When I was like little, 9 years old, 10 years old, and just sit there and eat an entire sleeve of cookies or an entire big bag of Doritos and think that there was something inherently wrong or bad about who I was.
Mhm.
So all of that was blinding my wholeness. Like it took me away from knowing and feeling my wholeness. It was always there, but it just was covered over.
Yeah, because when we're numbing, we don't want to see the dark bits usually.
Right.
The discomfort, the unacceptable feelings, I mean, I even think of how often do you see and probably have done or experienced it as a child, oh, you're such a good girl, good job, right? First, and then when you have the tantrum or this, it's like, go to your room and come back when you can talk nice. All those little messagings, it's like, don't show that part of you. So we learn to hide and we learn to push it down. And so as we begin to shift from I'm broken into I'm healing or I'm enough, we're starting to embrace the both and, right? The stuff we've been numbing or hiding or shameful from. And it doesn't mean we don't make mistakes and we make bad choices. We're human. But it's an opportunity to go, I wonder why. Why did I make that choice? Versus like when you're in that sympathetic fight or flight and you're in a true fight or flight, right? So yeah, like let's say you're attacked on the street and you fight back. Are you going to shame yourself for fighting back?
Probably not.
No, because it's a different energy, right? Versus, oh, I shouldn't have been wearing that walking down the street. They wouldn't have given me any attention. I did that to myself because I expressed that part of me versus, so it's so nuanced. And so what's the story we're creating around that incident, that behavior, that choice? Is it going to keep us stuck in that belief that I'm broken? Or am I going to look at it and go, I'm growing and healing. I made that choice, but what is that telling me about within me? What am I hiding? What was that trying to shine a light on that I've been avoiding for most of my life because it was never accepted and okay? Which doesn't mean we have to like it, right? We don't have to like it when we feel like crap. But we can embrace that part of us and honor, hey, it's okay. I gotcha.
And that is such a skill, I think.
Hard.
It's a skill. It's a way of being with oneself that needs to be taught and cultivated.
Right.
I had no clue. I'm only just learning, and I'm like 53. I'm only just learning how to show up for myself and embrace myself, like within the last, few years. It's a process. It's not, you learn something for the math test and then,
right.
It's not like real quick. It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about like, how do we change this for future generations?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I know like people are becoming more mindful as parents, so that's
Right.
helpful
Helpful.
because
Mhm.
they're doing their own inner work. And this is what you help all your clients with, you know, in terms of how to show up and be a more conscious parent. So the hope is that they do less of that shaming stuff of, oh, you're, you know, go to your room, like that example that you used. Or even I remember when my son was little and when he was like 2 years old or a year old and he would sleep through the night. It's like, oh, he's such a good boy. You're such a
Right.
good boy. You slept through the night. Like, why does he have to be a good boy for sleeping through the night? Why is that good? It's only good because then it allowed me to sleep.
Right.
Rather than if he was waking up every 3 hours or something, now my sleep is disturbed and it's an inconvenience to me. It has nothing to do with being good or bad.
No, but we want to classify it and make sense of it.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said is such a great example. And we do it in so many different ways with our kids. So like to help, how are we going to start to cultivate this in future generations?
Yeah.
Is recognizing when we see a bit, what we classify as good boy or good girl, it's really that we feel okay inside.
I know.
Right.
Even
And
still to this day.
when, oh my gosh, you're driving me crazy, that's, you know, don't know how many people say you're a bad boy or a bad girl, but I know there are people who do.
Yeah,
It's because you are uncomfortable.
I know it.
So really what that is saying is you're a bad mom, or you're telling yourself, well, they're behaving that way because I must suck as a mom or a dad.
Well, and I can remember, so taking my mask off, I will be 100% honest, when my son was little and he, you know, when I took him to play groups and things like that, he didn't have temper tantrums. When we were in Walmart or the grocery store, for the most part, he didn't have temper tantrums. He would sit in the car, you know, give him his little toy or a snack or treat, and he was fine. And then I would look over at maybe another little boy who is either being, you know, aggressive to another child or was melting down and the mom couldn't control the kid. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say it, of course, but I'm like, my kid's good, your kid's bad. I'm being honest, like, because I didn't know any different back then. I did not know. So I would totally judge.
Right. And what that parent and child needed most was someone to hold that space and be like, I know it's so tough, isn't it? But he's just letting his feelings out. It will pass. This will pass if we just allow. Because that's the thing is, when they're that age, when we were that age, most of our parents squash that, right? Like temper tantrums, like you're embarrassing me, all that, you know, go to your room, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're so wise, right? At 1.5 years, they know if I just get whatever's going on in my body and the feeling, the sensations, and I get it out through a temper tantrum, then I'm okay. Like if you've ever bared witness to a kid who had a temper tantrum, just allow it to be, they snap right out of it. Like it gets through. And sometimes it can be super long, sometimes it can be short, but that's what we talk about. If you just feel your feelings in 90 seconds on average, obviously, some temper tantrums can go on much longer than 90 seconds.
I know.
But it's moving out and through and not getting stuck in us. And when we break that pattern and shame that temper tantrum, we are not adding another brick of hide that part of you. It is not okay to be seen. And then it becomes, we're broken.
Exactly. And then you have a lot more growing and healing to do later on in life, because you have all these layers upon layers of, you know, feeling that I'm broken and I'm helpless.
Right.
You know, so.
And we give our power away, right? Because we give our power away when someone is telling us that's not okay with us. I'm not okay with it, so you can't do that anymore. So you're now helpless because that other person or culture or whatever messaging took away. your ability to be you. So of course we go into helplessness around those feelings, because how many people say, I don't even know how to deal with these big feelings. I'm helpless.
I know.
Because we've never been taught how to.
We've never been taught. Oh, there's so much that, is changing, which I'm really grateful and glad to see. You see more and more about emotional intelligence being taught in schools, and there's more mindfulness. So it's super exciting, and we have a long way to go.
Exactly. And just to add before we wrap up.
Yeah.
No one gets out of childhood without something.
Without something.
You
Yes.
could have the most conscious parent and the most this, that, or the other, but we're always going to have something. That's just the human process and condition. So it's not, if you're a parent right now with younger kids or whatever, and you're like, oh, I messed them up. Hey, it's never too late. And there's gonna be moments where something gets transferred along, and it is okay. It's okay.
It is.
We always show up the next time. We're human.
And we need to have some of this struggle to grow and heal.
100%.
You need to have something, to have in your life, because that's how we evolve. Exactly. Is you have to have struggle, just like the caterpillar. In order to fly and be the butterfly, you have to be able to work your way out of the chrysalis.
Turn into goo.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening today. We thought this would be a really good topic to talk about wholeness. And we just want to mention our July challenge again.
This feeds right into it too, right? Say yes to your wholeness.
Say yes, exactly. So we're saying yes to yourself, say yes to your wholeness. And, we do appreciate your support as always.
Definitely. Thanks so much. We will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.